Hello and welcome to a Nameless Tuesday episode. What a Tuesday it is, guys. What a Tuesday it is. Tim and I were talking about just like contracts in general. Like the conversation just sort of came up, chatting about contracts. And he was like, well, do you remember your first, like when you signed your first IndyCar contract? Obviously, contracts have been a hot topic in IndyCar the last few years, usually of like people signing them and then not doing what they said they were going to do. That's kind of been the main theme, right, on contract stuff.
Just lately. Yeah.
Just lately. But sometimes they do what they're supposed to do. And sometimes they actually go above and beyond. And so he was like, well, what about your first IndyCar contract? Is there like a story there? Oh, Tim, these aren't the earphones I thought they were. That's why. So... Sorry, guys, that's an unrelated story. But Tim's looking at me very disapprovingly. Oh, God, technology.
I'm used to it.
You are.
I'm used to it at this point.
Tim, do you remember, like, have you ever signed a contract for, like, a job?
Yeah. But usually they go the other way. So usually it's like, all right, this is the option agreement on this movie. This is going to be great. And then it never happens.
So that's honestly
the amount
closer.
Of theoretical money I've made is great.
That's honestly closer to my first IndyCar contract than normal, okay. Right? So the story kind of goes that I've been running Indy Lights. It was 2010, had a good season. And if I'm honest, it was kind of my last crack at it. Like I'd been at that level for quite a while and had some good years, had some bad years. When I was at that level, it was right during the merge. So like I was on the other side of the IndyCar Champ Car war. And so those years were kind of the lost years. And so I was doing my second year in Lights, but by that point, it was like my fifth year at that level, right? And we were out of everything. We're out of money, we're out of options, whatever. And we went with a smaller team, but we had a really strong year. And so we finished second in the championship, won a bunch of races. And Newman Haas gave us a call. And they were like, hey, we would like to test you. We watched all year. You did a great job. We want to test you for next year. We have a 2-car team. We've already signed Oriol Servia. And we would like to have a rookie as teammate.
Heard him.
Great guy, fan of the pod, friend of the pod, guest of the pod. So they were like, come out to Sebring and test, and we'll see how it goes. Because it was kind of down to me and the guy that beat me in the championship, J.K. Vernet. And so, that's like the dream call, right? As a young driver, like that's what you're waiting for. That's the moment. And so I, do everything I have to do to prepare for this test, go down to Florida, and the test goes very well. It was a 2-day test, and I actually ended up like a fraction of a tenth quicker than Oriol at the very last run of the very, last day, last set of tires, last everything. And so,
what did you get the standard press conference? Or press release?
There was no press release. No, it was none of that stuff. It was none of the standard like, oh, yeah, James did an impressive job in his first IndyCar test. And yes, feedback was great. And he was right on the pace, worked well with the team, blah, blah, blah. Like as we've made fun of in the past.
Every press release ever about testing.
I feel like next time there's a rookie doing their first test, I want you to write the press release like the morning of, and see how close it is to what comes out at like 5:30 p.m. that night. I bet you'd get pretty close.
I think so.
All right, watch our socials for that little gem next time somebody's testing for the first time. So you walk away from that day as a young driver who goes out there and your job's to go fast, and that's what I did. So I was like, sweet. This is awesome. I guess that's just how this goes now. You're just now you just become an IndyCar driver. That's how that works, right?
That sounds right. That sounds accurate.
It doesn't
I'm
work.
sure it went exactly like that.
I mean, yes and no. So we get a call. We get a call a few weeks later, and they're like, James, great job. Love your work. Love what you did at the test. We want to sign you. And we're like, amazing. Awesome.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it is. It's amazing. It's awesome.
You're
One
welcome.
small caveat. We don't have any money for that car. But in motorsports.
So it's very similar to making movies. Got it.
So in motorsports, there's often this chicken and egg situation with sponsorship, right? Where like you go to a team or you go to a company and you're like, hey, sponsor our race team. And they're like, yeah, totally, sweet. Who's driving? And they're like, oh, well, we can't actually hire the driver until we have enough money to go racing. So give us the money, we'll go hire a driver. They're like, yeah, but we're not going to give you the money until we know who's driving. So it's kind of this catch-22 situation.
Yeah, just the worst. The worst
Just
of
like the
every
worst.
world.
Yeah, it's like who's going to blink first kind of thing. Now, luckily, in this particular situation, I had no other options.
Lucky you.
Right. So it was like, here, sign this contract, and then we'll know who the driver is. We can go sell it. Or like, yeah, totally, no problem. That sounds great. Again, also like no other options.
Mm-hmm.
So I signed this contract, right? And it was like a nice day, but it wasn't like, you watch like draft day for NFL or NHL or whatever. And like, it's not that. I can tell you that. And, I'm signing this piece of paper, which again, I'm very excited to sign. And I had signed cool contracts in the past, when I did my A1GP deal or when I got the Formula BMW scholarship. Like, you're signing these cool and you feel like a big deal. Like, I'm a proper racing driver. But this one felt different because I knew there wasn't a car attached to this. It was very much contingent on finding a sponsor. But I'm like, this is Newman Haas. They've won 7 championships. They, the Andretti's like made their name there. Bourdais just won 47 titles on the trot. Like, they'll find money. Like, this is Newman Haas.
Yeah.
Right? Now, at this point, Paul Newman had already passed away, which definitely takes away some of your cachet when you're calling companies, but his name's still on the team. So whatever. So
Did you guys still get a good deal on the dressing?
I mean, I have a lifetime supply in my closet. They were so generous with the dressing.
It's great dress.
It is great. I buy it all the time. I 100% still buy it because of that first year with Newman Haas. And
I like Paul Newman.
Like Paul Newman, and it all goes to charity. So it's like,
Hole in the Wall gang is fantastic.
Exactly right. So rather than selling it and giving money to kids, they would just give me free boxes. So like, it's fine.
So you would get all the advantages of the dressing, but not have to help children.
Essentially, I'm just taking the money out of the kids' little hands, out of their small little hands.
Just robbing these children in need. That's
100%.
Okay, now I get the appeal. Now I understand. Yeah.
To be clear, I didn't get a single bottle of dressing in this exchange.
But to be equally as clear, he does hate children.
Well,
I want that known.
No, yeah,
Alex
that was
is the people's champion because he loves kids. James can't stand him.
Yeah.
Whenever I bring Hazel around, he throws stuff at her.
Well, hang on. I don't look at Hazel as a kid. She is more grown up than you are. So when you bring Hazel around, I throw stuff at you, just so we're clear.
That's true.
So I signed this contract with no car, no salary, and no guarantee of anything. So like, I don't actually really know legally what I signed. I signed a piece of paper that essentially was like, you have permission to go try to sell sponsorship by saying that I am a Newman Haas racing driver. And there was a day by which we had to have money in the bank to get the car built and everybody hired and everything to go to that first race in St. Pete. And the test was in December, and this date was like someday in mid-February because the race is like mid-March, right? And we're sitting there and like the team's doing everything they can and initial conversations aren't going as smoothly as we thought. And then my dad and I are trying to figure out other options. We're like calling people and whatever. And long story short, that
too late
date, you know what, Tim? Your story was too short. So I had to make up.
That was funny.
Anyway, so you think you're so funny.
In that instance, I think I was pretty funny.
You have your moments. That was not one of them. So the day came and went, and we had $0, no money. And that's kind of why I had to start the season late. Like I went to St. Pete with my IndyCar contract and my team polo, but I had no car and no sponsor and no prospects. And I was kind of like, well, this isn't how that's supposed to work, but racing's not fair and life's not fair and whatever. So like, I honestly kind of thought I was done. Like I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know how else to do it. And so we were kind of just like, I guess I'll hang out for the summer and see what happens and maybe have to go back to school in September or whatever. And, then
that's crazy. I didn't realize. So how old were you in this point?
Well, the thing, I was 24. Well, yeah, I was 24. And like I said, I'd been at that level, one below, for so long. And we had no money left. We'd been begging all of our sponsors to help us go to IndyCar. We couldn't figure anything out. And so I didn't know what else to do. We were lost, right? And so, I kind of had that realization that like, I can't do nothing. And I don't know what racing options are left. So I was sitting there like standing on the pit wall in St. Pete, watching the cars race around thinking like, man, I might have to go back to school in a couple months.
That's crazy. Cause you had deferred, right?
Yeah, I had. And that's the thing. When I dropped out of university, when I put university on hold, it was a 5-year deferral. And September 2011 was the end of my 5 years. We're talking March 2011 and I had nothing. So we eventually ended up hearing back from one of the guys that ran one of the companies, and we put this deal together. And he was kind of like, "Yeah, I'm in. I think we can do this." And we ended up getting a bit of money to get the season started and get on track in time for the second race. So it was,
generally speaking, we're pro money. We like that.
Definitely pro money, and it was, it was a start, but like, even then we knew it wasn't enough. So again, like he writes me this check for, a 7-figure check. And it's like, sweet, I am taking none of this. I am giving it to this person. And we're still several 7-figure checks away from finishing the season. And here's why, like, this is why this story is relevant to contracts, right? Because again, all we've heard about from driver contracts for the last few years in IndyCar and frankly in F1 is people not honoring their contracts, right? We've heard all about it in IndyCar with the whole Pelot situation and all the drama around that. We have heard a little bit about it in F1 in the sense of like, Max was talking about maybe trying to get out of his Red Bull contract. Lewis, we found out, we thought he signed a 2-year. It was really a 1+1, and he just didn't pick up the option. So that's not really apples to apples. I'm not saying Lewis broke a contract, but certainly the intent when he signed it was to do 2 years at Mercedes, and that intent changed and whatever. So fine, change of program there. But in this deal, it was contingent on finding sponsorship, and we found enough to get like, I'll call it half. That might be a little generous, but like, let's call it halfway through the season. Okay. And, so we were like, okay, sweet. We get on track now. And we missed one race. So that's already a bunch of savings. And then we got on track and we're like, okay, so now we're on track. And it was hard it's hard to sell a sponsorship when you don't know who the driver is, right? Mm-hmm. It's still hard to sell
a sponsorship even when you do know.
As we found out.
Sponsors in racing is very difficult.
It's so hard. So I had a sponsor and I was on the track. And it's like, so they couldn't sell the sponsorship when they knew who the driver was. Now we had a sponsor, because the sponsor's like, well, we don't know if he's going to be any good. Okay, well, he's a rookie. Okay, so now I'm on the track. I'm doing well. I've got a couple top 5s. We're in the running for the rookie of the year, despite missing the first race. Yeah. And we still couldn't get any money to go racing. Now, again, remember, this is still pretty recent after 08. So there's like, it's hard today, when the economy's doing well to find sponsorship. It was really hard in 08, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
So where this contract ends up being amazing is there was nothing in my contract that said if we start the season, we have to finish it. There's nothing in this contract that says if we start the season and can't find a sponsor, the team will step up and keep James in the car. None of those things were in there. It was very clear, black and white. If we don't have money, we can't go racing. And that's why we didn't start the season. But once we started and once we got going and once the team saw what we could do together, Carl and Bernie Haas reached into their own pocket and kept my car on the racetrack for the rest of the season. And we saw the year out. So,
okay. I didn't realize. I don't think I knew that part of the story.
So it was really cool because they had every right, and I could not have begrudged them at all if they were to have pulled me out of the car and just said, "Hey, I'm sorry, we're out of money." Like, that's how racing goes. That happens all the time, all across the world in motorsports. And they were just phenomenal, and they took really good care of me. And I'll be honest with you, man, that's not the only time I've kind of been in that situation. I had a situation at Andretti Autosport where a sponsor wasn't able to pay when they were supposed to. And Michael at the time had every right to take me out of the car, and he didn't. He reached into his own pocket to keep that car on the racetrack for the full season. And, so look, I know we joke a lot about me being on the end of some contract stuff, which I have been, and most people have, but I'm not going to sit here and play victim or cry foul, because my entire career wouldn't have started without somebody going above and beyond what was written in a contract. Mm-hmm. So,
well, and I think that is definitely a part of it that I feel like gets ignored a lot. Like, for every horror story, there's got to at least be some good stories, because people wouldn't be able to race if there wasn't, like the teams wouldn't be able to operate if sometimes like that happened to happen.
For sure.
I don't know.
So I don't know if it's a 1-to-1 kind of thing, but yeah, there's definitely good stories out there.
That a little bit.
Yeah. For every single bad story.
Let's temper it a little bit. There's some,
but then you get deals like when Connor ran for Coin. I don't know if I think I'm allowed to say this. Like when Connor ran for Coin, I'm pretty sure they
had a contract.
They had a handshake. They was just like, just if you show up to the track every week, you will get the drive and your paycheck will show up. I absolutely love that. Like,
I heard that's going to be the same with when Dixon goes. It's a handshake.
When Dixon goes there, it's going to be purely a handshake deal. And they've already shook on it, and we're excited to see that come to fruition.
All right. Well, thanks for story time with Hinch. This was fun. We'll think of a better name for that.
We won't. We won't do that.